Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades, with us. Craig is at practice over where Mack Rhoades is on the campus at Baylor University. Paul Catalina and David Smoak with Mack. And thanks for your time as always, Mack. I had a question for you. We've been kind of chewing up on the Big 12, the distribution, the extension, and all that could equal 31.7, et cetera. So can you try to help me piece together what men's basketball brings in? There's the tournament money, but what else? Are they a part of that 31.7? Is that a Tier 3 deal? So how do you get revenue from men's basketball outside of the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So, that 31.7, 31.6 number that you've been talking about, that's solely TV media partner revenue. That doesn't include other revenues. And so other revenues, just as an FYI, would be CFP money. So you would add that to it. It would be Sugar Bowl, other bowl games. Okay. You would add the NCAA men's basketball tournament. So the units that we receive, to that 31.6. And then you've got some smaller amounts of revenue that are ticket sales, and ticket sales would be like from the Big 12 football championship game. It would be from the men's and women's basketball Big 12 tournaments. And then you'd have some related corporate sponsorship. And then there's some NCAA pass-through monies. Okay. So men's basketball brings revenue really in two primary ways. It brings revenue in terms of the NCAA men's basketball tournament and those TV units. That's in addition to the 31.6. And then the other primary way it brings revenue is through the TV media contracts. And so, when we begin the new TV contract, that will be obviously through ESPN and Fox. Right now, the current TV deal, even though we've got both TV media partners, ESPN and Fox is not televising any men's basketball games, and so ESPN is primarily responsible for the TV revenue for men's basketball. Of that TV contract, of that 31.6, probably 85% of it is attributed to football, and 15% is attributed to men's basketball. So those are the numbers and the way it breaks down.
If you have 10,000 at the Farrell Center and eventually 7,500 at the Pavilion, will you, when you're a home team, do you get 100% of the ticket revenue? I'm sure the Big 12 may get some too. Or if you're at Austin, do they get 100%, or Lubbock? How does that work on ticket or attendance as far as ticket sales?
Yeah, so great question. So now, I'm really going to confuse the both of you. Well, I probably won't confuse Paul, but probably you. But all right, so we talked about men's basketball revenues two different ways through the conference. Okay. The third and fourth ways we derive revenue from our men's basketball program is through our own ticket sales. So that's both season and single game ticket sales to our home events, to our home basketball games, and then there's always you have to be a donor at a certain level for certain seats, and so there's donation monies involved as well. But to answer your question specifically, if it's our event, our home event in the Farrell Center, in the Pavilion, we keep for conference games, we keep, and for all games, and I'll tell you why I maybe hesitated a little bit, but we keep all of the revenue, okay? Off of the season ticket sale and off the single game ticket sales for those games. Non-conference games, depending upon, who it is, we will end up having to buy a couple of those games. So yes, we keep all of the ticket sale revenue, but at the end of the day, we're having to write a check back to that institution for them to come play at our place.
Okay.
So I hope all of that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a chunk of money. It's a big chunk of money. Thank you. That helped me break it down. I think a lot of people, even on our message boards on Sikkim365.com, sometimes we get that a little bit. It's just very complicated, but thanks for kind of breaking it down for us. Paul?
Mac, we are in the this is the second time you've had the transfer portal windows for football, as opposed to where it was just, whenever I've decided I'm in the transfer portal, I'm in the transfer portal. How do you feel that this is working, even though it's only the second one? Is this a step in I don't want to say in the right direction, because we don't know where direction anything's going to go, but in a manageable direction?
Yeah, I think it's better, okay? And I think, where it lands and how much better still probably remains to be seen a little bit. Again, not to be repetitive, but, the whole intersection of transfer portal, it's hard not to talk about transfer portal without talking about name, image, and likeness, because they're very much intertwined. But I think these windows really, curtail some of the chaos. There's now these defined times, and it's not throughout the entire year that you're having to deal with it and manage rosters, et cetera. And so I do think it's helpful. You're starting to see, because some of the spring games, right, were played this past Saturday. So spring practice has ended. So you're starting to see, football players, football student athletes enter the portal. You're going to have probably another proliferation after this weekend, because I think a lot of other spring practices like ours will end here on Saturday. So you'll see some additional players, and I'm not really, aware of how many other spring practices, or if any, are past this particular Saturday. But you'll start to see some more enter the portal again after this Saturday.
How much, you mentioned NIL, how much do you think, before there is guardrails, or you can make rules that make sense to all the parties and that are fair for all the parties, will there have to be the market figuring itself out from what is clearly recruiting inducement, and then people who have given that money not seeing return on investment, and then kind of figuring out where, more it's maybe about roster retention or staying at a school, as opposed to getting there and making it to where the people who are paying these NIL dollars get their money, the schools get the best out of it, and the players, most of all, are treated fairly and in an efficient way?
Yeah, I mean, I think I followed that. So I would say that, in terms of the pendulum swinging back, and, you have to remember this pendulum was way over to the left, maybe so to speak, right? And it was just waiting to be let loose. And this build up, all of this talk and conversation about name, image, and likeness, and then all of a sudden, July 1, 2021, boom, you let go of the ball, and it swings all the way over to the right. And, I would probably tell you it's still way over to the right, and maybe it's starting to come back down a little bit. You hear some certainly conversation about, there's been some examples like Florida, the quarterback there, right, where there's been some monies, some name, image, and likeness monies promised, and it's not come through. And, you're starting to hear some of that conversation, amongst student athletes, amongst agents of student athletes. I think, you are starting to potentially see or hear of, individuals given to collectives that maybe, they feel like after just 1 year it wasn't worth their, quote unquote investment. But, the reality right now, what we're dealing with, and we're right in this period of time with both men's and women's basketball, and the market, particularly for men's basketball, is it's high. you haven't seen that pendulum come back that much to the middle yet. What happens in the future? I'm not quite sure because do we have federal legislation that comes in and puts some guardrails in terms of how it works and transparency and a clearinghouse and then also obviously in addition to preempting all of the state laws and everybody's operating from the same place. So I would tell you that the pendulum is still far right in terms of and those are not political terms, but far right in terms of it hasn't swung back to the middle much, at least not much at all at this point in time.
If you polled, let's say, if you know all the ADs, I mean, you're a part of the conventions, you're a part of athletic directors, et cetera. But if you were to just randomly say, okay, give me 40 guys, 40 men or women, ADs, how many of them are on a percentage? It doesn't even have to be full, but a percentage like NIL, and yet again know that it was just time and, like you said, the dam burst, but they just wish they could find a way to curtail it where they could get your arms around it?
Yeah, there's probably there's probably 10 to 15 institutions that are in a different place than anybody else in terms of name, image, and likeness and their collective, right? And it's schools that have huge, large donor bases. We have 2 or 3 of them here within the state of Texas. And you have another 12 to 13 throughout the country, and then you have this next level group that's like Baylor, like we're in that next level group, and I would say that when you look at those two groups, I would tell you that even the ones that have the most money, 9 out of 10 would say this is chaos. It's not what was intended. It's not good necessarily. I think we automatically think it's good because student athletes are being able to be compensated for name, image, likeness. But I'm not sure that we're really setting student athletes up for success. And so the amount of time that it consumes, like my world and what I do on a daily basis. I've got a lot of things that consumes my time, but right now, name, image, and likeness, it's crazy. I mean, I can't go probably an hour without having a conversation about name, image, and likeness. And so, I'll give you another example. I was talking to an agent of head coaches, and works with a lot of men's basketball coaches, and his clients are miserable having to deal with this. The minute the season is over, and even during the season, unfortunately, because there's some tampering going on, you're having to recruit your own student athletes. You're having to re-recruit them. You're then having to figure out, how much money does collective have? What are we going to be able to do, right? Obviously, the institutions cannot provide any of these name, image, and likeness, payments, contracts, etc. But and I've said it before. What this has turned into is a pay-for-play system. It's broke. It needs to be fixed. It needs to be corrected. And unfortunately, the NCAA and decided to not move forward and drop all of its parameters right before the July 1, 2021, and that's really put all of us in a really, really hard spot.
Mack Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics, with us. 365 Sports.
Mack, I saw that the last beam has gone up in the Foster Pavilion, which I'm sure every step along the way is another, as you've got a hard start here in 2024 of conference season. And what's it like to get one more step out of the way there?
Yeah, I mean, it's every day it's a step forward, and I was actually over there today, and talking to the project manager, and then certainly a couple representatives from Austin Commercial. But they asked me, well, what do you think about progress? And I immediately said, it doesn't really matter what I think about progress. What do you guys think about progress? We've got 8 more months before we want to play our first basketball game, and they were certainly confident in terms of where they are with the timeline, and the project is going along quite well, and it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time to see it go up, and progress is probably going to look a little bit slower now because all the structural steel's in the roof. All the concrete has been poured, and so much of the work will now be inside. And so, it'll probably look maybe to all of us looking in from the outside a little bit slower. But, walking in there, and it is busy, and it is quite an operation, and just grateful and thankful to all of the workers. So many of them, if not all of them, live here in Waco. And this truly is a community project, and just grateful to all of them for all of their hard work and what they're doing each and every day. So,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. I do want to get back to name, image, and likeness on one thing, but go ahead.
Finish that comment. That'd be great about whatever you want to get back to with NIL.
Well, I just think with name, image, and likeness, right? It's a process that we've got to be involved in, and it's really important. And I'm grateful to all of the donors that have participated and have worked with GXG Exchange or in some other fashion. But it's something that even though I say it's broken, we Baylor have to participate in. We're going to field competitive rosters. We're going to have to do it, and so we are. And it's we don't have the advantage that a lot of other schools around us do because of the size of our institution, the size of our alumni base, but. Grateful to those that have participated, and we're going to have to continue to, find, and not we, the institution, because we can't be involved in it, but ask our Baylor family to participate in name, image, and likeness opportunities.
If a donor was to call you, and Baylor's got, I was told this, I learned this quickly when I said, I don't know how you keep up with it financially, the facilities, the arms race and all that, and obviously up and down your campus with the new ops building, what you're doing with the new welcome center, and now, of course, the pavilion. I was told don't ever underestimate the money that Baylor can come up with. But if a donor was to call you, can they call you and say, hey, I want to donate X amount of money to NIL? Are they allowed to do that?
Yeah, they could, but I would certainly, direct them, obviously, to GXG Exchange, or or shows them some certainly other opportunities, or talk to them about our other opportunities, but Sikkim 365 and our marketplace and some other opportunities, but primarily GXG Exchange, and the NCAA rules changed. Like when this first started, we really couldn't talk about it. We couldn't be part of it. Now, quote unquote, we, meaning the athletic department, can assist. I can talk about it. I can, ask people to participate. Scott can, Dave can, Nikki can, our other head coaches can. Now, we can't advocate for any particular program. So Scott can't advocate if he were to talk to a donor about it. He can't advocate for that name, image, and likeness monies for GXG Exchange or any other opportunity for it to be designated to men's basketball. So it's changed a little bit. I think that change, I can't remember if it was October or November, that we're able to at least talk about it and assist. But again, clear, very, very clear. We cannot provide any of the monies for name, image, and likeness.
What would be and maybe this is how it is, but like you can when kids can get meet agents before they go pro, and you can bring them in and they can meet and talk to them. What would be the problem with schools being able to give their seal of approval of this has passed muster here, as far as this is a group that you should talk to? You're not advocating for anybody, but you have vetted them and made sure that you don't have situations where somebody's like, hey, I've got a bunch of money for you here. They don't get it, or it's just an organization that doesn't really even exist.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, I think you're asking, the whole idea of agents now in this name, image, and likeness space. And, agents is probably a loose term when it comes to the name, image, and likeness. I think there's some, real agents in the space that are representing student athletes and do a good job and have great integrity. And then, there are some people that are, agents or call themselves agents, and they're just speaking on behalf of the student athlete. And, your student athlete may be 22 years old, and, they've got a friend or somebody that's 27 years old speaking on their behalf. And so, you try to have, obviously, conversation with student athletes about who they surround themselves with and who they're selecting. You've got, some agents that, when you're thinking about name, image, and likeness opportunity, it's not necessarily about, the highest dollar amount. It's about, fit. It's about that coaching staff, how they're going to, certainly help develop you as a student athlete, specifically a player, but also as a person. And then you have, other agents that's all it's about is the highest dollar, the highest earning potential. You've got people out there in this space, that will tell you that, hey, X school is promised, by my student athlete that I represent X amount of dollars. And that's, you end up finding out that's not true. And so again, I just go back to, it's broken and it needs to be fixed. But, that cannot stop us or prevent us, Baylor and we have to, and again, want to be really careful. We've got to have a mechanism for name, image, and likeness. We can't do it, but we've got to have a mechanism for that to be in place for us to have the ability to field competitive rosters. And so we have to have our Baylor family individuals participate. And it's a lot that we've asked our Baylor family to participate in. There's not a lot of schools that have $311 million worth of capital projects going on. And then, name, image, and likeness. And, we've been, really, I think, proactive in terms of, keeping our good people. So, we talk about people are our greatest asset, retaining our head coaches and retaining our assistant coaches, unless an assistant's going to go off to be a head coach. So, there's been a lot that we've had to manage and handle, and in order for us to be and continue to be nationally relevant, and we're going to continue to really work hard at it.
Yeah, again, like I said, there's always going to be money there, but you got a lot going on. Texas Tech's got theirs going, a lot of capital, and obviously Oklahoma State and others are doing it. It's an arms race. It never seems to end. Mack, thank you very much. Has a donor ever told you, we'll get it, we'll be fine, even if they have almost been sucked dry by all the money that they may have donated for other facilities and other things on campus?
That's not a very good description, sucked dry.
No, I thought the same thing, Mack.
If the lemon,
certainly not trying to do that with
the
anybody.
lemon has been squeezed. There's nothing left in the lemon. Oh, God.
We have a great Baylor fan. We've got great donors. We really do, and we certainly have donors that absolutely say, hey, we're going to find a way to get this done. It's I think it's really important for Baylor athletics, to be really successful, nationally relevant, because let's not lose focus. Why are we doing all of this, right? We're doing this to prepare young people for life. We want them to move on from Baylor and just be really, really successful. But we're also doing it right so for our Christian platform. And if we can be nationally competitive, then right or wrong, you have this platform, and then we can impact others by our actions and the way we live for Christ and for His glory, and so that's the ultimate. That's why we're doing this, and so that's why it's important for us to stay nationally relevant and competitive. Is to be able to witness to people and to minister to people.
Mack, thank you very much. We appreciate you putting up with my
I'm sorry for my rusticated co-host here.
I know. Whatever the hell that means. Thank you, Mack. We see you at the spring game. We'll see you at the spring game Saturday. All right.
Yeah.
It's Mack Rhoades, Director of Athletics. You know how I am. There are times things just happen. But what's wrong with that time?